Hey everybody, tonight I am going to be showing you how to mount your compositions to your mat board. So here we have my two compositions. This one is just, this is the overlapping shapes one. This is just a blank piece of the Bristol as a placeholder for your second compositions. So you are going to need your two assignments, composition one, and then the second composition, you will need white glue, the heavy mat board. It is very thick, not easily bent, and an X-Acto blade and a ruler. All right, let's get started. So I've decided I'd like a 1-inch border all around, and the orientation for both of my compositions will be vertical. So I'm just drawing very crudely what that will look like so I can figure out the dimensions. So I've got 6 inches, 1 inch, 1 inch. When you add that all up together, you get 15 inches. And then on the other side, I know the long side of my composition is 9 inches with 1 inch border on the top and the bottom for 11 inches. So now I know I need to cut my mat board 15 by 11 inches. It's a little hard to see, but my mat board is actually on top of my cutting board here. And I know that the mat board is 15 by 20 inches, but I am just double checking the measurements. And now I will only need to cut 11 inches since one side is already 15 inches. So I've got a sharpened pencil and I'm going to measure out 11 inches a couple of times down the side of my mat board, and then I'll use my ruler to connect those two lines. I'll just double check that everything looks straight and that my corners are looking perpendicular before I get started cutting. I'm making sure that my X-Acto blade is nice and tight, and now I will start the process of using light passes to cut my mat board. So it's going to take me several times to get through the mat board since it's so thick, but I'm using light pressure, so just in case my X-Acto blade were to slip, I wouldn't end up injuring myself or ruining the mat board in any way. Now that I've done a couple of passes, I'm just going to check, and I can see I'm nowhere near ready to free my side of the mat board. So I'm going to keep cutting, keep scoring along this edge here with my ruler, and you can see I change the location of my hand as I move down the piece of the mat board. Now once it's finally free, looks like I've got just a little piece to cut up at the corner here. But once it's finally free, I am going to take a look at my mat board. I will flip it over, and that will be the side that I'm going to glue my compositions on. And my corners look good, everything looks very square, so I'm ready for the next step. What I'm going to do first is create like a little guide. I used 1-inch borders for my compositions, so I am going to take a piece of the scrap of the Bristol And I'm going to mark out 1 inch along the corner here and then cut it so it looks like a little L shape. Now that I have my guide, I am going to grab my mat board again, and I'm going to put this in the corner here. Just rest it along the edge here. And next, I am going to glue my first composition to my mat board. So I have my white glue here, and I am going to put just a little bit of glue on the back. You don't want too much glue, and you don't want any glue too close to any of the edges here. Now I am going to position my guide and then carefully set my composition in place. I need to make sure I've got the proper orientation before I glue it down. And then I will use clean hands to apply pressure as the glue sets here. It will take a minute for the glue to dry. So it's a good idea if you have a clean piece of paper, if you want to put that on top, making sure that no glue has escaped from the edges, and then set a heavy book on top so that way you can be sure that everything is going to dry completely flat. Now I'm just going to repeat the process for my second composition. In this case, it's just an empty piece of Bristol, but for all of you, it should be your figure ground compositions. And now once again, I'm going to use my guide to help determine where I will place my Bristol board. And I will set it down very carefully. Once again, working with clean hands, now I'm going to apply pressure and make sure that it looks perpendicular and perfectly aligned to the other composition. You can see that as you apply pressure, sometimes the glue will make it move or wiggle a little bit on the mat board. So at this stage, I think it's okay to just eyeball it and make sure that everything is laying flat and that your edges still look nice and perpendicular. And that's it. That's how you mount your two compositions onto your mat board.